Some of the earliest Smackdown vs. Raw games are the best I've ever played in my life, and I feel bad for you if you never got the chance to try them out. I'm mainly talking about 06, 07, and 08, but the original one was solid, and so was 09 and so forth. But the reason I want to focus on these three is because they had a specific game mode on there that stuck with me to this day and forever changed the way I viewed wrestling. I'm of course talking about General Manager mode. Grade school me would fire this up and book shows for hours. There's just something so fun about being in complete control of your brand, but I wanted to do a little something different today and rank the first three GM modes from my least favorite to absolute favorite. The ranking will be determined through these three factors: roster, gameplay, and features. We're going to go through these three games in chronological order, and by the very end, I'll rank them from 1 to 3. Sound good? Well, let's kick things off with the first ever General Manager mode, which was on Smackdown vs. Raw 2006, and we'll start by checking out this roster first. Man, oh man, is this thing stacked. You obviously got your main event guys like John Cena, Batista, Triple H, Undertaker, Shawn Michaels, who's a cruiserweight in this game, Kurt Angle, Eddie Guerrero. You get the point. Very good main event guys to choose from here, especially since this was only 2-player. It's enough to where both brands get a good selection of guys. Then we got your mid-card selection, which is, again, pretty damn stacked. Big Show, Booker T, Carlito, Chris Benoit, Y2J, Christian, Edge, Kane, Rey Mysterio, Randy Orton, Rob Van Dam, Ric Flair, who's another fucking cruiserweight, Shelton Benjamin. You get the point. A very wide variety of wrestlers to go around, but my favorite part of this roster is the lower card section of the draft. There's just a lot of fun names to pick from, even when you get to your last selections. Guys like Chris Masters, Eugene, Muhammad Hassan, Orlando Jordan, Basham Brothers, Paul London, Scotty 2 Hotty, Spike Dudley, Tajiri, and even the Hurricane. So yeah, this game has got a very broad selection of wrestlers. Actually, one of my favorite rosters in a wrestling game that I'm going to give SVR06 an A for the roster category. Moving on now to gameplay. Now keep in mind this was the first General Manager mode ever, but they seem to nail everything. The gameplay was very smooth and not confusing at all, unlike these newer 2K GM modes. Even me at 7 years old had no issues playing it and was able to figure it out. It was easy to just pick up the controller and book shows, and my favorite part was that the rivalries built themselves over time from wrestlers facing one another, and you didn't have to do call-out promos or run-ins every week just to keep your rivalry afloat like you have to do now. It was simple, and all you really had to worry about was putting together the best matches possible for your audience. So as far as gameplay, this one gets a flat A because there is absolutely nothing wrong with it. Now we're moving on to features, and given that this was the first GM mode, the features aren't going to be as complex as later versions. The match types were a little basic, but this is the first GM mode, and you basically have all you need. You'd unlock new match types as you go, or certain pay-per-views will let you play a special match. Then you obviously have the ability to choose between the default rosters or draft your own, and if you guys know anybody that would actually choose the pre-made rosters, you need to check on them like now, because they most likely grew up to be serial killers. The only strategic features on this game were really the promos and title management, because they help your show's rating out a lot. Promos like the main event hype would bring your main event match up by like a whole star, and it actually mattered who you had your belts on. Unlike these newer GM modes where I completely lose track of my champions, all because I'm trying to book my level 4 rivalries to win the ratings war. But no, champions actually mattered here, and putting a belt on a guy not only brought up their popularity, but match quality as well. You'd also have to watch your finances. It's very easy to get carried away. Oh, and injuries. They will kick your ass if you just book your main event guys in steel cages every week. You have to be mindful of your roster. You could also release superstars or trade if you got sick of them, but that's in all the games really, even to this day. As well as morale, you have to keep your roster happy, which, believe me, can be hard to do when half of your roster is asking for a title shot with only 4 belts on the show. So as far as features go, I'm going to give 06 a B-. Now we're on to SVR07, probably my favorite wrestling game of all time, not only because of GM mode, but the season mode on this bitch was so fun too. Anyways, I'm getting sidetracked. Let's look at the roster for this game. Absolutely loaded with main eventers: Batista, Eddie, Edge, John Cena, Kurt Angle, Randy Orton, Rey Mysterio. Hell, you can even call Rob Van Dam a main eventer in this game, considering he was WWE champion. I know I didn't include some of these guys as main eventers in '06, but it's because they weren't there just yet. And you can't forget Shawn, Taker, and Triple H. What an awesome selection. Now for the mid-card, which was really stacked too, some of my favorite names include Big Show, Bobby Lashley, Booker T, Carlito, Chris Benoit, Chavo, Chris Masters, Finlay, who was hella underrated, JBL, Kane, Mr. Kennedy, Mark Henry, Matt Hardy, Mick Foley, Ric Flair, Shelton Benjamin, and you can't forget Umaga, who I remember always picking. What a stacked-ass mid-card, and the lower card, if you will, was pretty fun too. Guys like Gregory Helms, and I hate that I have to include him with the lower card tier because he's a really good wrestler, but he was never a mid-carder for real. Mainly a cruiserweight, a damn good one too. You got Hardcore Holly in there, Johnny Nitro, Kid Cash, Lance Cade, Psychosis, Snitsky, Super Crazy, The Boogeyman, Great Khali, who wasn't a main eventer just yet, Trevor Murdoch, Viscera, Vito, William Regal, a ton of fun wrestlers to pick from once you get to your lower selections. And really, this game did a beautiful job at depicting the roster at the time. They left almost no names out, so as far as the roster, I'm giving '07 an A+. Also, guys, if you're enjoying the video, don't forget to leave a like and drop a sub, as they take a long time to make, and any kind of support would be greatly appreciated. I want to start doing this full time for you guys, and that'll really help me out. Now back to the video. Let's look at the gameplay now, and there is some changes from '06. They started experimenting more with the rivalry mechanics. Now you can't just book your shows and have your rivalries built organically. You have to go and buy them. It was kind of annoying because some wrestlers wouldn't qualify for a certain rivalry, so that could really slow the gameplay down at times. Other than that though, pretty smooth and similar to '06. You book your shows and get sent to WWE.com after, but really, no complaints for the gameplay. It's kind of the same like I said, just a few tweaks that'll slow your game down, mainly the rivalry, so I'm giving the gameplay a B+. It was good. Now moving on to features, you obviously have your draft, budget control, the ability to sign storyline writers, which we kind of just went over. You got trades, obviously, more match types and more promo options like slandering, which gives you the ability to steal fans but could also backfire on you. But my favorite feature from this game was the addition of heat and velocity, which made it really easy to build up your lower card talent without hurting your main card. I remember I'd build up guys like Super Crazy and Boogeyman to about an 80 popularity, thanks to heat and velocity, which gave you 3 extra matches. That's pretty damn good. But besides that, most of the features stayed the same from the previous game. But that heat and velocity addition really set this one apart from the other two, that I'm going to give it an A for the features category. And just like that, we're down to the last OG General Manager mode, which was featured on SVR 08 and wouldn't get brought back until 2K22. But given that this was the last GM mode at the time, they must have nailed it, right? Well, let's look at the roster for starters. Your main event guys include Batista, Bobby Lashley, Edge, John Cena, King Booker, Randy Orton, Rey Mysterio, Shawn Michaels, Triple H, and Undertaker. Kind of a step down from the previous games if you ask me. Then your mid-card would include guys like Carlito, Chavo, Chris Masters, CM Punk, Elijah Burke, Finlay, JBL, Jeff Hardy, Johnny Nitro, Kane, Marcus Corvon, Matt Hardy, Mr. Kennedy, Mark Henry, MVP, Ric Flair, Sabu, Sandman, Great Khali, Umaga, William Regal. And if you ask me, I kind of like the mid-card section of the roster a bit better than the main event scene. You definitely have a lot more diversity here, and your lower card would consist of guys like Kenny Dykstra, Snitsky, and really just everyone left, because this roster, as we all know, was way too goddamn thin. And to think that we had to split a roster of about 40 males and females combined into 3 brands was crazy. SVR 08, you're getting a B- for the roster category. Definitely the weakest one yet, and the only thing saving it for me is that some of my personal favorites are on here, like Sabu, Sandman, CM Punk, Umaga, but that's about it. This roster was really small. You'd find yourself having to pick between Kenny Dykstra and Great Khali by like the 5th round. And now we get down to the worst part of this game, and that is the gameplay. This could get so confusing at times. For one, you would finish an entire week of booking and not even know who won the fans over, because it wouldn't direct you to the fan page automatically. You would have to go to the main menu to check it, which was kind of annoying at times. The only time they would direct you to the fan page was after pay-per-views, but that's about it. Then you have the stupid computer system for this game, where your opponents can book Mickey James versus JTG in the main event, and it'd be a 4-star match, whereas you could book John Cena versus versus Triple H and Shawn Michaels in a triple threat, and it'd only get like a 2.5-star rating. This game was just insanely difficult at times for no good reason, and it was hard to even put on a full card some weeks with how thin the roster was. You get a few injuries and you're screwed. You're going to have to book Kelly versus Mark Henry, which is a 1-star match on your show, but a 5-star on ECW. Oh, and if you book a tag match on your show, you're left with like 6 to 8 guys to book with, which is absolutely ass. Therefore, I am giving SVR08 a flat C for the gameplay category. It could get really frustrating at times. Then we move on to features, which is pretty much the same as 06 and 07 really. Draft, budget, injuries, morale, storyline writers, etc. But one thing I did like about this game is that you could book on the days that you were off. For example, say you're Monday Night Raw and you booked your show, now you have Tuesday through Friday left, which in the other games, you typically couldn't do anything on these dates until it's your turn to book again. But here, you could build up your talent using autograph signings, movie appearances, photo shoots, and you can't forget the overpowered ass trophy dates, which could bring up a wrestler an entire 8 popularity in just one day if successful, which was crazy. And I kind of like these features, I'm not gonna lie. I was out here booking Umaga on dates every week, and I didn't care. It was kind of fun. No velocity or heat in this game, though, but that's fine. They gave us other ways to build talent, so I'm going to be generous and give 08 an A- for the features category. Now that we've looked at all these games, these are the final rankings we came up with, and we obviously have a clear winner in Smackdown vs. Raw 2007, with 06 being the runner-up and 08 being the sore loser. And if you notice something interesting, it's that 2006 had the best gameplay in my opinion, which is kind of ironic considering it was the first game, but they got it almost perfect. It was really easy to play, and the computer wouldn't be on bullshit until later. 2007, however, definitely had the strongest roster, just a shit ton of good wrestlers that you couldn't pick everyone you wanted, and even the last selections for your brand could be hard to choose. 2008, on the other hand, wasn't the best at anything. It was easily the least enjoyable out of the three, and the overly thin roster had absolutely everything to do with it, making the game feel impossible to play at times, let alone win. But I want to hear you guys' opinions in the comments down below. Maybe you feel differently and have SVR08 at number 1. Make sure you drop your rankings. I want to see what my viewers think, as well as don't forget to subscribe if you enjoyed this video. There will be a ton more content like this coming. We're just barely getting our feet wet. I love you guys, and I hope you have a blessed day. See you on the next episode of Wrestling Relapse.